Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with just an update for the 1 versus 1 Commander format. There was a significant ban list, so I thought I'd give it a go. Played in 2 leagues and went 2-3 and 3-2 with Tesa. The 2-3 one was kind of awkward because most of those matchups were just either getting stuck on 2 lands or getting flooded out in a bazillion lands. It seems to be the rule of thumb on MTG. You keep a 2-lander, you never draw another land again. You keep anything more than 2-lander, 3+, and all you do is draw lands. Just kidding. Anyway, it's just sometimes variance hits you hard in runs, and you remember those runs, and you don't remember when the times things actually work out as intended. So anywho, the 3-2 was interesting though, because the only decks I lost to was a green ramp deck and a blue. What was the blue commander I lost to? I don't know, something that was splashing blue. So blue decks do tend to still be difficult, even though they did ban a ton of cards. I think still the problem is the life total. I'd really like Wizards to decrease the life total to 25. I think 25 is the sweet spot because we have to really worry about the aggro decks having an extra card in hand. They start with 8 cards in hand if you include their commander. And some might argue too with something like either Grenzo as the commander or Zergo or Karizev, or I'm thinking of some of the other red commander decks that are really aggressive, that it might be more than, you got to count those as a little more than an extra card in hand. But, I mean, it's quite easy for mid-range decks to stabilize against them. So I think it would open up, if they become part of the meta, it would open up a lot of more of the mid-range type decks to actually be able to weed those out. So right now, though, mid-range cannot compete versus control with a 30 life total. It's just, it gives the control too much of a jump. And aggro also has tough time versus combo and control, as they just can't aggro fast enough with that 30 life total. I mean, basically, it's like having a sideboard gain 10 life in your modern deck, because I think this format feels somewhere in between modern and legacy on the power level. So, yeah, I don't know. Either that, or they're going to really have to punish the combo decks or ban some more cards out of combo, especially green ramp decks, and control blue decks. So the banning, they banned Ponder, Preordain, Treachery, and Brainstorm, which were all, they said, 100%, almost 100% use in all of the blue decks, which, yeah, if you look at the data, those were probably the better cards. Just the Treachery is such a great card advantage card, as it steals a card, untaps lands, and so basically it's a free spell. Huge tempo swing too. And the Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm just allow for the 100-card singleton deck to be a lot more, at least fight the variance. So there's 2 ways you can fight variance. One is through filtering through your land through draw, and the other was with tutors. And so blue has access to both worlds. So I think they have got a longer ways to go. However, now with Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time Treasure Cruise, and now Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm banned, it is opening it up to more decks. In the leagues, I did see a lot more non-blue decks. They also did ban Vial Smasher, which is something that absolutely should have been banned because that card was way too good. It wasn't made for 1 versus 1. It was made for multiplayer so that the effect randomly hit people. So if it was just too powerful on a stick, like almost like a gutter snipe on crack, on like basically able to cast multiple times in a game. So I'm glad about those changes. I think that they are going to have to make some more changes too. It looks like Breya will be the next one on the ban list just because Breya just does too much in a card. I think if Breya didn't have blue in the mana cost, it wouldn't be as oppressive, but Breya looks like the next card on the chopping block if you look at the tournament results. Okay, with that out of the way, oh yeah, and then green decks too. I think Ancient Tomb and Sylvan Library need to go too. It just makes green too good with being able to abuse the life total, the 30 life into ramp or draw. Sylvan Library, of course, is balanced on a 20 life total. The Ancient Tomb was based on a 20 life total as well. And I think with a 30 life total, they're just a little bit too busted. So that would be my suggestion too. I use Ancient Tomb in this deck, for example. It doesn't even synergize that well, like with a lot of my converted mana costs. But it's one of those cards that if you get it out on turn, like 2 or 3, sometimes that means like casting a Sword of Feast and Famine and equipping it on the same turn. So anyway, this is my updated list. It's doing quite well. I've become a little more degenerate with it. I'm not sure if I should go back to more of a mid-range. Like this is still more of attrition control base shell, and a lot of Tesa decks I've seen in the past utilize more of a geez, can I even, there we go. Utilize more of like a combo feel to it, more of a mid-range feel to it, but I'm still trying to fight off those blue decks. The worst matchups by far are the green ramp decks. I can't race an Emrakul. Sometimes I can combo off. I've got a lot more degenerate combos here with the unbanning of the Painter's Servant. So we are going to run the Painter's Servant and Grindstone combo. So Grindstone, Painter's Servant. I have a lot of tutors in this deck with Imperial Seal, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Diabolical Content. At this point, the what is it? The Idyllic Tutor can also go get, no, which one is it? It's the, I thought there was another tutor here that can go get an artifact or an enchantment. I think I need, did I cut it? Oh, Enlightened Tutor, there it is. Enlightened Tutor can also go get an artifact or enchantment. So a lot of ways to go find the combo. The Painter's Servant's the easy one because the Painter's Servant can get tutored up even with the Recruiter, the Guard. So that's a lot easier of yeah, because it can go get, oh no, I can't get Recruiter. Womp womp. I'm just looking at its toughness 2 or less. So yeah, sometimes it's difficult to find the combo, but I think it's worthwhile to put the combo in it. Might go back to Blasting Station. Oh, I did put Blasting Station back in the deck. Cut like Phyrexian Altar. Usually if I could get Phyrexian Altar out, it was pretty decent, but I think the Blasting Station was just more versatile. It was a win con by itself, whereas Phyrexian Altar still needed one more combo piece. So with Phyrexian Altar, you need like a Zulaport Cutthroat out. And I would actually run a Blood Artist in this deck too, but the extra trigger on having to target a specific player with the Blood Artist, you time out so often. So anyway, let's just go down the list. So this deck is going to run 37 lands. That's typical. 37 or 36 to 38 is usually what people run in the format. Notable lands that I run in the format are going to be the like High Market, which allows you to sacrifice a creature. A lot of times you need ways to kill your creatures because there's a lot of combos like the Nether Shadow or the Blood Gas that want to die, and you need some good sack outlets. So these ones on a land, Phyrexian Tower, of course, being the better one, are definitely these are powerful effects. So High Market in here too. I also have the Valoras Stronghold to put something back on top of my own library. And other than that, it's just the usual suspects. We have like a Westfell Abbey in here, Mutavault, and the Homeward Path. I don't know if I need Homeward Path anymore with the banning of Treachery. We might be able to take that out. But yeah, there's still a few cards that do gain control of things. Control Magic still is played. And yeah, there's like deck fade in that taking your Skull Clamp's annoying. So High Market allows you to get those back. So I don't know if it's worthwhile in here or not. So we talked about the tutors, Enlightened, Imperial Seal, all of those. Like if they were like, I'm a huge advocate for banning them. A lot of the 1-drop tutors, especially instant speed tutors, as they are pretty busted in the format. But if the tutors go, probably Tesa isn't viable at that point because Tesa does need to finish off with a combo. I don't know. Maybe could go to more of a mid-range like Sun Titan route and still get the job done. So anyway, for the control, though, we have like Swords to Plowshare, Innocent Blood. Do not underestimate Innocent Blood. This is a very powerful card to get around the hexproof type cards that do see play every now and again. Plus, it's if you don't have a creature out, this just wipes the opposing. At least if they have one creature out and you have none, it just kills a creature. So it can get around all the pesky hexproof stuff like that. Plus, again, it's a sack outlet for turning your black cards into white creatures with Tesa. So if you have the Bloodghast or the Reassembly Skeleton or even the Nether Trader, you can use an Innocent Blood and get a white spirit back. So we're going to run Thoughtseized Duress and Inquisition of Kozilek. I had a Collective Brutality in here. I mainly cut it just because I sold it, because you'll be checking a lot of my videos. You're going to have a lot of Market Monday type feel to them. I'm really going all in on speccing on MTGO because I'm trying to learn the kind of the new age of how MTGO works with the treasures, and so far I've been very successful. And so it was just one of those cards that I cut the Collective Brutality just because it was spiking. It's up to 17 tickets, and I think it's at a rare, very easy to be able to reprint it as a promo. I think that's a smart call. So basically, a little subject for that for another time. Just watch my Mark 1s. Wizards or MTGO can print a promo or throw in a treasure at any time. So if there's a card that's spiking, sell it. Okay, so then we have the control. We also have like cards like Anguish Unmaking and Vindicate. Sin Collector can rip out a card. We have Liliana, both of them, Liliana Veil, Liliana Heretic Healer, and Kaya to play kind of this attrition war. Each opponent discards a card. So yeah, all of them can rip out your opponent's hand after you've controlled it. Merciless Executioner and Fleshback Marauder are really synergistic with the Tesa, so I highly suggest running them. We have Unexpected Absent and Council's Judgment, which are very good removal spells. And I think that was pretty much all the removal spells. We have the 1-drops. We have the Viscera Seer, as well as the Bloodghast. I had a Ranger in here, but I cut a bunch of the 1-drops. Weathered Wayfarer is pretty good, even though I don't have the Urborg Tumi Yawgmoth Cobblecoffers card in here anymore. Weathered Wayfarer seems to be a pretty good card to combat the Wasteland, combat some other land destruction. If you're behind, this card can get you back the lands you need. It can go get specific lands too, so it can go get you that Phyrexian Tower. This probably is the weakest card, though. It's probably the one that you could easily cut. We have the combos in this deck, which are really good. The Painter's Servant is one of the really good combos because you name black. I mean, sometimes you can name white. If you already have a Darkest Hour out, Painter's Servant and Darkest Hour is a incredible combo together. But if not, you're going to name black for Painter's Servant. So that turns all of your creatures into black. So then when you sacrifice a creature, it returns back a black creature with Tesa. It'll actually turn back a black-white creature with Tesa. So you can just go infinite with so many cards with Painter's Servant. So Blasting Station, Painter's Servant, Tesa is an infinite combo. Painter's Servant, of course, and Grindstone is an infinite combo. So same idea with Darkest Hour. Darkest Hour does shut off Tesa's second ability because it just all creatures are black. They just become black. The only way to get around that is Painter's Servant to give them in addition to their types. This just, I don't know, does it override it? I'll have to check and see if it actually does, but I don't think it does because of the in addition to clause. So some of the other like flex cards, Stoneforge Mystic goes and gets the most important card in the deck, either Skull Clamp or Jit. Both of those are Jitte, however you say it. Both of those are very, very good cards in the deck. Can also get a Sword of Feast and Famine if you're going up against black or green decks, and it plays the Attrition War quite well too, and Sword of Fire and Ice. Then we have the Grand Abolisher, which is really good against blue decks. So if you can slap a Grand Abolisher on turn 2, then you basically says all your creatures can't be countered on because you're going to be casting them on your turn, and your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities or artifact creatures or enchantments during your turn, so can't be countered. Then we have Neither White Orchid, which if you're behind on lands, goes and gets you lands. Same thing with Tithe. Tithe is very good for that. Then we have Leonin Relic Warder. Not quite sure how much I need this anymore. It was really good to get rid of like opposing Grim or the Basalt Monoliths. I'm trying to think of some other ramp type spells or artifacts. It can get rid of some annoying enchantments like the Sylvan Library. It can get rid of opposing cards like the Phyrexian, the 2/1 artifact that shuts down abilities. So they can shut down like Teysa or something else. So Relic Warder can take care of it. You like the Relic Warder because in response to the trigger, you can also sacrifice the Relic Warder and it's gone forever. It doesn't have the opportunity to come back. So that's a pretty decent card. There was a black card, a Brain Maggot. Not Brain Maggot, it's the old school Brain Maggot. I had it here at one point, which I might bring back in. That does a very similar thing to the Tidalor Scholar does. So the Tidalor Scholar is a very similar card, comes into play, you exile a card from their hand, and then if you sack it in response, it's gone forever. And there's a black version of this too, the Mesmeric Fiend. I might put Mesmeric Fiend back in the deck is one of the cuts. It's just, I'm not quite sure if that's where Weathered Wayfarer wants to be, if it's another card that, again, it's just, depending on the game, I just felt like I had enough ways to rip out the hand, and just another 1/1 just wasn't worthwhile at the moment. It just doesn't synergize as good as Tidal or Scholar. The Scholar can also be tutored up with the Enlightened Tutor, which actually comes in handy quite a bit. You'll be surprised that sometimes you want a Tidal or Scholar just to make sure you can stop whatever your opponent's trying to do. So Dark Confidence is a great card to just fill back up your hand. We don't have a lot of card draw in here. We do have a Phyrexian Rager as well, and we're just going to rely on like Kaya is good for card draw. Liliana, when she flips, the Heretic Healer is good for like pseudo card draw. Same thing with a lot of these cards, like even the Stoneforge Mystic have pseudo card draw. Bitter Blossom 2, you get a 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue each turn. We don't run a lot of tokens in here, but Lingering Souls and Bitter Blossom are going to be the exceptions. So we talked about the tutors, reassembly skeletons, one of our combos comes back for 2 mana. Blood gas, we talked, comes back every time a land comes into play. So Hymn to Torak is going to be in our attrition package. Sinkhole is just a really good way to slow down your opponent. It's something on turn 2, which is really good, especially on the play. So you can play a land, put them back to 1. It's really like a time walk in a way. So insanely good card. Jet is the best card in the entire deck. Well, either Skull Clamp or this are really good against. This is really good against creature-based decks. Is good against control. More tutors. Monastery Mentor. This is another thing that does create tokens, and we are playing a lot of non-creature spells in this deck, so if you can slap this down on turn 3 or even turn 2 with an Ancient Tomb, this card can get out of hand quite quickly. Plus, it gives you a lot of fuel to just continue to create tokens for Tesa to abuse. I have the what was the card? There's a card that puts out 1/1 Death Touch Snakes. Oh, the Ophidian? Oh, I can't remember exactly what it's called. I cut it just because our look at our curve here. Our 3-drop slot was just so clogged that I ended up cutting it. It was the 3-drop that had to go, but that's definitely an option for the deck. Recruiter can go get so many cards. You can actually even go get a Monastery Mentor, can go get a Dark Confidant, can go get a Tidal or Scholar. So you enter the battlefield, you search your library for a creature with toughness 2 or less, reveal it, put in your hand. A lot of times it goes and gets one of your combo pieces like the Zulaport Cutthroat or the Nether Trader. And it can even go get the Bloodsoaked Champion, the Vampiric Tutor. It's insanely good, especially when you rinse and repeat with other cards that we'll talk about in a second. So the Marauders are great for control. Rager's good for the card draw. It's got synergy with Recursion from the graveyard, plus with Kaya. Yeah, it's probably the better. There is many cards that have this sort of feel to it. This is probably the best one. We have the Priest of Gix. This one's kind of cool because it's just a free card. It comes into play and it adds 3 black. So I like it because usually you want to be casting a creature. You'll get value out of it and then doing something with it. So you can cast like Priest of Gix and a Blasting Station on the same turn. And if you have like a Tesa, then you can use your Blasting Station to kill the Priest of Gix. And then, or not, yeah, you sacrifice a creature and then, yeah, you get a 1/1, yeah, it untaps it. So it's also a great card with like the Recurring Nightmare right here to go get back a priest. It a lot of times is a free Recurring Nightmare. So this one's to sack a creature, return Recurring Nightmare back to its hand, and return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And it's just a way to get incremental value out of Tesa. Again, both Lilianas are very powerful. Liliana Veil for the control aspect with the sacrifice a creature and then start discarding cards. And Liliana Heretic Healer puts out a 2/2 zombie after it gets flipped, and also has each player discard a card, plus can start returning cards back. So insanely powerful in this deck. The Pawn of Ulamog is really, really good. It can be cut, though. I like it, though, because it adds a lot of tokens that they can be exploited with, like Skull Clamp. And even though they're colorless, they can ramp you. It's things you can sacrifice later on. It does add for some infinite combos, too, with, like, the cards that can come back, like it's the Nether Trader. No, Nether Trader because it adds colorless, but I mean it's not quite infinite, but it adds a lot of, with like the Blasting Station, for example. It does, yeah. There is the amount of Eldrazi spawns you can get from this card is pretty good. So I don't suggest. I like it in this deck anyway. Anguish Unmaking, Vindicate, just extra control. Vindicate can also destroy land. Keep that in mind. We talked about Sin Collector and the swords. So now we're getting onto the really juicy stuff that we want to stabilize for. I've used other cards in this slot, like the higher converted mana cost stuff. I've even had some really juicy enchantments with Academy Rector. But this, I like to keep it so you can cast most of your stuff on time. Therefore, Academy Rector is usually going to go get the Recurring Nightmare. Sometimes it goes and gets Darkest Hour if you're ready to combo off. It can go get Grave Pact, which is an insanely good card. And it can go get... There are a lot of enchantments that are very viable in this deck. That Bitter Blossom, that's another we can go get. I've had like Phyrexian Arena at a point in this one, but you don't really want to be playing the Attrition War. Like there's better ways to draw cards, in my opinion. Usually this is going to get the Academy Rector. Almost always is going to go and get the Darkest Hour if you're ready to combo, or Grave Pact, I would say. And sometimes I go get Anointed Processions with it. Again, Recurring Nightmare is insane with it as well. But Anointed Processions is one of the latest additions just because it goes insane with Tesa, as instead of creating 1/1, you create 2. And that is that's huge. That is something that you get a lot of value to the Anointed Procession. You create 2 with the Ponavulomog or the Monastery Mentor, for example, and it's something I think that I've never really been disappointed when I drew it. Like, this is a slot though; they could easily be replaced, and I wouldn't fault you. But yeah, for now though, it's really done its job. Then we have the Palace Jailer. Palace Jailer is a 4 mana, can be tutored up with the Recruit of the Guard, by the way. Enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. There's some other card draw. They have to attack you to get the Monarch back. And when Palace Jailer enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until an opponent becomes a Monarch. So even if this Palace Jailer dies, they don't get it back until they become the Monarch again. So it's something you can cast the Palace Jailer, sacrifice the Palace Jailer to Tesa, and then just make sure you never get hit. And then basically you start drawing cards every turn because of the Monarch token, as well as you've got rid of a threat. So really like Palace Jailer. It can actually get rid of Emrakul, so keep that in mind. It's something that can actually deal with it, because Emrakul only has protection from colored spells, not colored effects. So I like it. I like the Palace Jailer over like cards like Fiend Hunter. Fiend Hunter is something that I've had in the deck before. It works. Banisher Priest, Fiend Hunter type cards. Banisher Priest isn't as good as Fiend Hunter, because Fiend Hunter can be sacked in response to the trigger going on. It's the same kind of effect as the Tidal or Sculler. Banisher Priest, though, can be tutored up with Recruiter, and I believe that Fiend Hunter is a 1/3. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Kai is really good because it can flicker a lot of cards. So again, with Palace Jailer, it's really fun to flicker Palace Jailer with the Exile. And then the discard a card, draw a card is insanely powerful. Against Burn, losing 2 life and gaining 2 life and keeping back a 4 loyalty Planeswalker is really good. Remember, she starts at 5. That's pretty high for a 4 Planeswalker. Then we get on to Revelark. Revelark is really good because you get 2 creatures back with power 2 or less from your graveyard when it leaves the battlefield. So that just leaves the battlefield. So anything that flickers is really good with this. That gets most cards. There's very few cards it doesn't get. It doesn't get like the Merciless Executioner or Fleshback Marauder, but it can get back like Painter's Servant. It can get back the majority of cards, even like a Liliana, Heretic Healer can get back. It's a 2/3. And it can actually get multiple with power 2 or less. So return up to 2 target creatures. So you can get like a Viscera Seer and a Weathered Wayfarer, for example, or like a Painter's Servant and a Nether Trader. I mean, there's a lot of options with the Revelark. That's why I think it's worthwhile to put in here. Shriekmaw is a really good evoke card too. For 2 mana, you can destroy a non-artifact non-black creature. And what's really cool with Shriekmaw and Teysa is you get a 1/1 back after that. So it can be tutored up also with Recruit of the Guard. Can't get back with Revelark though. And then we also have the Unexpectedly Absent. So that's basically a rundown of the update of the 1/1 commander. Again, it's a very flawed format. It's annoying going against blue. The problem with blue is not necessarily like, I'm not going to be one of those that just bitches about blue. The real problem with blue is over the entire existence of Magic, they've been trying to balance it, especially cards like Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm. So if you look at this card, particularly like Duress, there aren't a lot. There's Blackmail, I guess. Blackmail, Ostracize. Maybe that's a bad example with Duress, but if you look at other cards, they are what you call like staple, what black does, destroy, discard type effects. In this entire existence, there's not as many options, or at least as powerful. Like there's Anticipate and I'm trying to think of Anticipate and Impulse, for example. Those are really very close to the same power level. Whereas like nothing comes close to Thoughtseize, Duress, and Inquisition of Kozilek. The rest of them, like Blackmail, and you get up to like Ostracize, and like all of those are a lot worse and just not nearly on the power level. So it allows like blue to play a ton of these cantrippy blue of draw spells and really get to what they're trying to do quickly, especially when they pair it with a commander like Barl. And then it's very, very tough to really combat that variance-wise with these other decks that aren't running them. So I think that's the biggest problem with blue in general, and they have a long ways to go. Like they've banned the more broken ones, but I still think that maybe like High Tide, like something just needs to hit blue to keep it so that 100% of the top decks, or 95% or something, every now and again you see a green deck squeak in to the 5-0 finishes, but the vast majority have been cards. And then if you look at a card like Brea, for example, Brea is predominantly all blue. You look at all the cards they're using, it's like blue, 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 and maybe like a lightning bolt as the one red card, or a Thoughtseize for the one black card. And it's few and far between the non-blue cards. So even though Brea is a multicolored card, obviously the power level is on the blue card. So it's obvious that something needs to change to try to balance the format. So again, I'm admitting this has a lot of flaws to it, but it's still fun. And every time it is shaken up, it's always fun to, throw the pet deck Tesa. So this last league was kind of fun. I had a 3-2, only went up against 2 blue decks, beat one of them. Lost to another green ramp deck, and beat all of the other creature-based decks. So there was a Brimaz deck and that was a blue deck that I beat too, but they weren't utilizing blue. It was the Exalted guy. Whenever it attacks Exalted, Rhino guy. But it was a quite easy matchup because I think it was like my opponent was trying to do some sort of Enchantress build. And I got out like a propaganda and a ghostly prison. I'm like, well, I don't attack anyway, so whoop-de-doo. Those 2 cards are worthless against me. And then I ate his hand away with all the control. So Brimaz got off to a way quick start, like it was like a Brimaz into an Ajani, into an Elspeth, into something else to put out a bunch of 1/1 tokens out. And I assembled Teysa in Darkest Hour, and it was just too tough for my opponent to push through. But anyway, maybe I'll showcase this again if people are interested. I know it's a very, very long deck tech. I'm back to rambling. RambleDeckBuilder.com, signing out.